Okay, so I would like to give it a start. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this seminar titled Public Sector Innovation, Dynamics and Evolution of a Complex Ecosystem, organized by FGB, Fondazione Giacomo Brodolini, in cooperation with the Milan Politecnic and the University of Bologna. Before I start the introduction to this meeting, I would like to ask everyone, please, to keep muted during at least the first round of interventions of the established program for this seminar. You can also, of course, ask questions and interact in the second part of the program. My name is Fabio Sgaragli. I'm Head of Innovation for FGB, and I have the pleasure to moderate the seminar this morning, and also to be part of the core team of the SEED project, which is actually the context in which this seminar happens. So let me just spend 2 minutes sharing with you what the SEED project is and aims at, because I think it is a very interesting European funded project, because it aims at establish 4 national competence centers for social innovation in the 4 partner countries: Italy, Romania, Slovenia, and Greece. And at the same time, there are at least another 5 consortia actually working on the same aim all across Europe. These consortia have been funded by the EASY line of funding of DG Employment, and the notion of establishing a National Competence Center for Social Innovation was born out of an analysis made out of the last programming period, when, at least when looking at the ESF, there was a debate within the Commission whether social innovation was enough mainstreamed in the ESF programming all across Europe, or whether something more could have been done in order to make social innovation not just a title in the programming, but let's say a transversal method and approach when spending European funding addressing some of the pressing social challenges of our times. So the whole idea is to actually provide seed funding for the establishment of these national competence centers in the participating countries, so that they can be at the service of the ESF managing authorities and other managing authorities of other line of fundings in each country, providing insights, providing data, providing forecasts, providing services for designing policies, and actually providing also a platform for engaging all the different actors of the national social innovation ecosystems in order to produce better public policy, more impactful policies that take into account social innovation, not just, as I said, as a title, but as a way forward in order to solve complex societal challenges. So this is the SEED project. Each consortia has been asked by the European Commission to organize a program of capacity building for anybody really, for the quadruple helix, interested in knowing what the SEED, what the national competence centers aim at, but mostly in keeping contact with some of the most interesting discussions and dimensions of this overall challenge of mainstreaming social innovation. So that's what we are gonna address this morning in this seminar. And in particular, we're gonna look at public sector innovation, because as we all know, because I guess that if you are here, you're interested in social innovation, you are either a policymaker or a practitioner in social innovation on the ground. What we have been witnessing in the last decades has been an increasing line of experimentation, a very interesting line of experimentation in bridging the gap between policymakers and public administrations and actors on the ground, experimenting with innovative solutions and innovative methodologies in addressing societal challenges. So this bridge that has been created has produced innovative models of cooperation between public and private. Actually, PPPs are all over the places right now, but not necessarily they've been the solution for all problems. And in particular, different models and different approaches have been not just tried, but legislated by the European Commission and the different member countries. So what we want to explore today in this seminar is actually this overall notion of public-private cooperation in social innovation, what it is, how it works, what are the models behind it, what some of the interesting legislation across Europe has been produced in order to regulate this interesting model of cooperation between public and private, and also, of course, the important topic of how do you measure the impact and the success of this model of cooperation. And I guess probably this is not just a very interesting topic in itself, but I think that it is central to the overall mission of the National Competence Centers, which is to reinforce this cooperation between public and private and to provide a better platform to produce not just legislation, but programs and projects that actually have an impact on the ground. So without further ado, I will stop for the time being, and I will leave the floor to our first speaker of this seminar that is actually very knowledgeable about the European scenario on the different approaches, practices, and success factors of PPPs, Filippo Montesi, who is General Secretary for Social Impact Agenda for Italy. So Filippo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fabio, for inviting me and having this opportunity to exchange on such a relevant topic. So Social Impact Agenda per l'Italia, which is a national network that promotes impact investing in Italy, we strongly believe that public sector innovation is fundamental for developing ecosystems that are conducive to sustainable development. And in our experience, public-private partnerships are a key means for putting intelligence, know-how, and resources in specific processes and solutions that tackle complex environmental and societal problems. And my intervention, my speech will focus on a specific type of PPP, which are payment by results schemes that are a specific form of PPP that on the one hand require and on the other hand entail a great extent of innovation, both in the public and private sectors. A payment by results scheme, just to clarify, this scheme includes any type of financial instrument in which the reimbursement and remuneration of the investment is linked to the achievement of specific objectives that are established prior to the investment. So it's a scheme and arrangement that facilitates collaboration and cooperation among different stakeholder groups. So, for example, we might have investors that provide the initial capital to experiment an innovative solution, either a product or service or a project. We will have service providers that carry out the necessary activities to implement the innovations. We would also have outcome payers that usually are public institutions that will repay investors when the agreed social objectives are indeed achieved after, verifying the results by an independent organization. So already in the definition of a payment by results scheme, you see different stakeholders that work together and that have to align different interests and organizational cultures. Looking at PBR from the perspective of public administration, this type of instrument represent a relevant opportunity to activate innovation processes as they afford the opportunity to secure additional resources to use in investment without bringing additional burden to the public budget. And also they allow some shifting of the financial risk to private investors. On the other hand, from the perspective of investors, that increased risk, which is a complex and multidimensional factor, So it's not only financial risk, but it's the project risk, is the context risk, is the impact measurement risk. That type of risk assumption provides an opportunity for higher financial returns that are, produced by public savings. So a part of these public savings are used, if the project is successful, to remunerate the capital. Indeed, if the innovation is not achieving the expected results, then the investor will lose the capital or will not receive the financial return. So you can understand that a PBR scheme will require and entail different types of innovation. The first type of innovation is the administrative one that has implications in the efficiency in the financial resource allocation. Think of procurement processes. You need to innovate procurement processes to implement a PBR scheme, because the public administration will transform the processes to commission outcomes rather than outputs. And this is happening in different European countries. Think of France, Portugal, Finland, and also the UK. They exit the EU, but they are still part of the European family. The public administration was central. So it's not a matter of reducing the sphere of the public, but is to empower the public in order to adopt innovation in their administrative processes. And we have seen, for example, the establishment of specific unit at the central government or at the local government, and also an improvement in skills and specific competencies. PBR also can encourage service innovation, giving more space to service providers, either non-profit, third sector organizations or for-profit organizations, to innovate and improve the quality of services. They should have more freedom to experiment, having a stronger alignment with public interest and having, their activities tied to specific objectives. And such a focus on outcomes can be really transformative, because solutions can be designed in a more creative, flexible, and tailored way. More in general, I also think that we have several experiences that have been studied and mapped, where PBRs can contribute also to policy innovation. So I spoke about administrative innovation, service innovation, policy innovation, as this shift from outputs to outcomes encourage more preventative solutions to problems. Most of PBRs have been applied to, for example, reduction of recidivism or prevention of diabetes or homelessness. Such an approach focused on outcomes can encourage more preventative solutions. And finally, a PBR scheme, by orchestrating strategic partnership between different types of stakeholders, can afford greater competence and more resources to be leveraged to tackle complex problems. And finally, I see, quite much opportunity also in an additional type of innovation, which is governance innovations, because a PBR usually should increase accountability and transparency, as the functioning of this scheme is based on the measurement of impact targets. So again, just to conclude, the public administration has the opportunity, when we look at success stories of PPPs, to look at impact measurement as not just as an administrative process, but as an opportunity to have shared learning and to develop and create a more conducive environment for different stakeholders to cooperate, align to a common goal, to a shared public interest. So the perspective of a PBR is not reducing. Again, I want to stress this issue very much. It's not to reduce the domain of the public, but to encourage collaboration across private and public. Thank you.
Great, Filippo. Thank you very much. Of course, you know, PBR are a very interesting scheme, and they, as far as I know, have been currently tried out in different member states. They are quite a sophisticated approach, as you explained to us. I would also like to stress the fact that some of the principles that you have explained so well about PBRs, they can be taken on a more general level to a bunch of different kind of approaches and schemes that not necessarily refer to PBR, but maybe they are more light or they are, you know, more soft, but they have a lot to do with the notion of shared administration. So I'm thinking about, you know, engagement processes, whereas citizens and, you know, local stakeholders can help a city to program and elaborate, you know, programs and projects in a better way. I'm thinking about consultation processes, whereas, you know, policymakers take on board inputs and feedback on the design of new policies. I'm referring to, for instance, in Italy, the notion of a public-private contract, which, you know, has you know, this idea of a co-investment by public and private, mostly, I would say, around physical spaces that, you know, can be regenerated and can be animated to different functions at the service of the community. So I'm referring to this whole lot of different ways of implementing the principles that are at the core of PBR, and that are actually at the core of our discussion today, more in general, in this notion of encouraging more public-private collaboration for social innovation. And actually, this gives me the prompt to pass the mic on to our next speaker, that is going to share with us a couple of interesting projects in the line of what we're just talking about. And I'm referring to two case studies from the city of Turin, which, by the way, is the lead partner of the SEED project, or the SEED consortium, and actually is going to speak at the end of this lineup. And those two case studies are not just interesting because they represent some of the principles and schemes that we'll be talking about, although not PBRs, but other kind of schemes, but also because they happen at the city level, which I think it's also another interesting notion to bring to the table. The fact that social innovation, at least in some member states, more than others, is a very local phenomenon, is a very local, happens at the local level, happens at the city level. So cities have a big role to play in, you know, in enhancing and mainstreaming social innovation. And they also play a very interesting role in connecting the national ecosystems for social innovation that you, Filippo, mentioned to the local ecosystems that actually make things happen on the ground. So without further ado, I'd like to pass on the mic to Elisa Bacchetti, who is Deputy Operation Officer at SocialFare. Please.
So hi everyone. I hope you see my screen and the slides, I think.
Not yet, Elisa.
Okay, let me know if they are coming, otherwise it's fine still. So hi everyone, thanks for inviting me here. I'm Elisa Bacchetti from SocialFare, Center for Social Innovation of Turin. So we are really in the place where like these SEED projects come from. I'm happy to share with you today like two projects as introduced. One, I don't know if you see now the screen or not.
Elisa, actually, I personally cannot see the slides nor you. So
okay, but maybe okay, I'll go without them.
I can see.
Yes, we see the slide.
Oh, sorry about that. It was
now
my
not
problem
yet.
then.
Okay, let's get back. Okay, I'll try again. Okay, but it's not like I mean, even if you don't see, it's not a really like a problem. Was just to have something just in the back. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you like to two projects that we made in the last years. One that is the Tonight one is still ongoing. The We Care 3S instead is closed in 2021. Both of them are projects related to public and private partnership. So this is like really the strong focus they had. And so I'm going to show you briefly both of them. Then I brought there the websites, so just if you are curious, you can go there to see much more details about. So let's talk first of all about the WICARE 3S project, that is welfare that is systemic, sustainable, and scalable. It was a request made from the Piedmont region. They had some funding from the EU and they want to use them for the local welfare, the territorial welfare. And so they asked us, through a manifestation of interest and so on, to participate to drive all the actors that participate to this project to implement their own project through different trainings, capacity building programs, and so on. So we support them during the whole implementation of their own project. Anyhow, the general project has the aim to set up and experiment a new operative mindset of public and private partnership in the field of territorial welfare. So we had one region, 147 actors, both private and public, and 22 projects that had the duration of 1.5 years. So in this case, what happened? So the idea really from the region was to make them in the ability, in the possibility to collaborate in something that was operative. So it was not just the choice of doing something together, but this project really made some implementation and prototype in the different fields of the region. So this was really like a strong way of make private and public in a real collaboration that we know every time is not so easy, because of the different dimensions, different modalities of doing and so on. So it was really an experimentation, and was really strong the fact that a lot of entities, a lot of actors decided to collaborate together. So more than 100 of entities collaborate together. So it's really a big project that lasts 1.5 years. What I want to tell you about this project specifically, just as a suggestion, as things that came out, was like a really that's something that was really crucial to make this project to the end, was an effort in the collaboration and in the alignment that was already mentioned from Filippo, that was really relevant, because there was like necessarily the willingness to do this together, because otherwise it doesn't work. It seems really something simple, but was really the crucial part, because it was really important that all the actors were involved more or less at the same level. In some of this project was really a peer-to-peer approach between all the partners. In some others, a bit of centralization from the public actor, so it was a bit different, but was really powerful, the fact of having this partnership that collaborate really strong together. Something that instead was really difficult was the part of the privacy issue, because it was not so easy to share data, information, and so on between public and private. So this is still a bit of a problem that we need to solve to make this kind of collaboration more agile, more simple. About the second project, that is the Tonight one, that is ongoing right now, is 7 partners coordinated from the city of Turin with other 6 partners. In this case, the aim, the focus was to improve the safety perception in 2 specific areas of the city, so that are Aurora and Vanchigliacle, so 2 specific neighborhoods of the city of Turin. In this case, we have 59 actors that are all from private, and 19 projects. So this case was a bit a different one, but the interesting thing was that there was kind of an implementation, considering instead the weaker one, because in this case we have also like the social impact evaluation, both for the general project, but also for the 19 project that received training and so on. They also receive a training and a monitoring about their social impact. So there is this kind of upgrade on understanding and motivating furthermore why they decide to solve this kind of issue and where they want to go, so what is their final aim and goal. So in this case, if I have to underline something, I think that one of the main aspect was like was the main challenges was trying to make what is intangible a tangible output. That is every time the fact of doing an impact evaluation, that every time we have this kind of intangible values and so on that we want to bring, but we need to make them as a tangible so that we can monitor them, evaluate them, and so on. So this one is one of the main challenges of the project. On the other side, to do it with these 19 projects in the city with the collaboration of public and private was really relevant, because so was not just one spot intervention, but was made by a lot of spot intervention that can collaborate, that can make network, that can make also partnership outside of this. So I think, I mean, this kind of partnership, public and private, is really a powerful tool that we can have. We have just to fix some issues, some maybe practical issues that can make it even more easy to make it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elisa. And I think that you also stressed some of the key points for the discussion this morning out of these two experiences that I just want to stress before passing on to the next speaker. First is the fact that both projects seem to me like platform projects that actually help to generate different kind of experimentations and bring together a large number of actors. So this is an interesting approach on one side. On the other side, I think it's one of the key principles, I guess, that we should keep in mind when talking about public-private partnerships, which want to provide a larger impact on the territories, is the fact not to, focus just on one approach, but to try several different approaches in order to see what solution, what approach can be a best fit for the challenge that we want to address. The second point I want to stress about these two experiences is the fact that the key role of the local public administrations in actually orchestrating these kind of projects. And I think that this calls for a larger reflection about the changing nature and role of local public administrations, or administrations at large, in this whole discourse of public-private partnerships, shifting from a notion of being the payer or being, the director of everything that happens on the ground, to the notion of being the orchestrators, being the facilitators, being the ones that actually provide the context to encourage collaboration and experimentation on the ground. The third notion is, as you mentioned quite effectively, is the notion of measuring the impact, which falls back to what Filippo said at the very beginning, the importance of measure, of this loop of, make, measure, learn, and make again, that provides a learning loop, a feedback learning loop that can help to design better policies and better solutions at every iteration. And when talking about impact measurement, I think we have now our next speaker is the best among us to actually talk about impact measurement, and in particular about a very important experience at the national level that calls for this reflection. So Nicola Cabria, Chief Operating Officer at the Human Foundation, will talk to us, will share with us the experience they are working on the GOAL program and the testing of a new model for impact evaluation. Please, Nicola.
Thank you very much, Fabio, for having me here, and let me say good morning or good afternoon to everyone. I want just to introduce Human Foundation very briefly. We are a not-for-profit organization that works mainly in Italy, and we work in the past with public as well as private sector, mainly, as you said, in the impact evaluation field. So the team that you asked me to face social impact evaluation, both in the framework of public and private governance models, is not so easy. And I would like to start saying that in Italy, the private sector has done more than the public one till today. We have seen foundation, cooperatives, association that have improved their accountability in the last few years. Now is the time for the public to make its move, and I think that to make the evaluation become a strategic tool, we need that the intervention of public authorities. And it is why I focus this intervention on one specific program that we think is very relevant, because change the rules inside Italy about the impact evaluation and the dimension of assessment from the output side to the outcome side. The name of the program is GOL, G-O-L, Workers' Occupability Guarantee, if you wanted to translate it. Is a program that wants to support the reskilling, the upskilling, the increasing in the level of occupability and the occupation in Italy. It is relevant, yes, it is very relevant, because it has 4.54 billion euros of resources. It is funded by the European Social Fund, that is the same funder of the SEED project. It is under the Next Gen EU, so it is under the National Recovery and Resilience Plans in Italy, and it is related to active employment policy strategy, which is the target of the projects. By 2025, this project will involve 3 million beneficiaries in Italy. 8,100 of them will be in training activities, and 3,100 of them are related to digital skill. So it's very relevant and significant in terms of number of persons that will attend this program. Who are the public actors involved? The regions and the autonomous provinces in Italy that are the implementer of the regional plans. And the other relevant actor is the ANPAL, that is our national agency that promotes active working policy in Italy. The policy evaluation of GOL, why it is so interesting for us? Because it is centered around three main words: innovation, experimentation, and evaluation. Regarding the first word, innovation, GOL has the goal, sorry for the joke words, to find innovative and experimental interventions, which can form the basis for change, to share goods as well as bad practices among Italy, and why not, among all the countries involved in Gen Next EU. The other word is the experimentation. The goal is to scale up innovative small-scale project, and this is a good thing. So we don't start with big-scale projects, start with the small scale, and we try to understand if they are effective in terms of capacity to reach their goals. The evaluation is the central tool that ANPAL and the region want to use to define which are the good practices, as well as to select the most innovative small-scale project to scale up. I think that another thing very important inside the GOL program is the type of evaluation that we see inside it. We have an ex-ante assessment, and it is the precondition for the person that will access to these activities. They must respond to principle of appropriateness. The evaluation will help to understand each beneficiary's competencies and needs, and we use this ex-ante evaluation to identify better the position of each participant in the labor market and the support required by each participant. So the ex-ante evaluation gives us the information to understand which kind of activities we have to give to them. The planning phase, there are specific impact evaluation actions required in the planning phase. All the regions in Italy has concluded their planning and presentation phase. We participate in some of them, and we saw in the format that the format contained a section specifically oriented to the assessment of the outcomes, not of the output, where the proposer had to identify a particular methodology, particular tools, and processes. Then we will see if the AMPA, the national agency, will have an ex post evaluation. We hope so, to see if they will collect the results of each regional intervention to understand how much the policy has been able to reach its intended goals. The impact evaluation dimension inside the goal program is aligned, this is a very relevant thing, to European qualification framework. For the ones that don't know what it is, it serves as a translation tool between national qualifications framework. It has an 8-level learning outcome-based framework, and it is very relevant, a learning outcome-based framework for all types of qualification. So we go from professional education to postdoc learning programs. What learning outcome-based framework means, and it is the real change at the bottom of this program, it means that to understand how effective the program is, the evaluator will use learning outcomes as key performance indicators. So we pass from an output dimension, the number of persons that will participate in one education program, to other outcome dimension. Which are the dimension of analysis in goal? What the person knows, what the person understands, and what they will be able to do. In conclusion, I think that this program is a good example of how the public administration could support the scaling up of social impact evaluation tools, at least in Italy. Thank you very much, Fabio.
Thank you very much, Nicola. It's, of course, impressive, the scale of this national policy that, at least for some of us, it's very familiar. And I think there are a few things that are worth stressing out of your intervention. The first is this idea of testing solutions before scaling them up, which is also a typical process adopted by social innovation. And of course, you know, it's coherent with my comments before about Elisa's, you know, the two projects that Elisa talked about. The second is the fact that one of the principles of this national policy that you talked to us about is actually this continuous iteration between, you know, consultation, ideation, testing, piloting, and then, you know, analyzing the results and the impact, and then, you know, iterating the process, which I think it's also a very interesting approach that comes from some of the lessons learned in social innovation experimentations that we have learned from in the last decades. The third is, of course, the very, you know, the importance of the impact measurement and the kind of approach that you are developing within this national policy. I think it's of the utmost importance. Also, because there is, as we all know, still a debate going on all across Europe about the ways in which we can measure you know, the impacts of social innovation and the different kind of KPIs and schemes that we can adopt, and the variety of adoptions that have been tried out all across Europe, that makes it also difficult to compare results and efficacy of the different kind of interventions being tried out. So I guess these were all very interesting points, and it's also interesting that we're going, you know, from a European perspective to a local, then to a regional, national, and then we go back to city level with Fabrizio Barbiero, is the head of a unit for European funding and also the project manager of SID. Fabrizio, I've anticipated, you know, before the importance of cities as local ecosystems for social innovation. the importance of cities in providing, a platform for social innovation actors on the ground, the changing nature of local administrations. I think those are all things that you have been experimenting in the last 10 years, at least as much as I've been knowing you. So as also the lead partner of SID, please share your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Fabio, and good morning, everybody. But let me say that the first reason that I think it's very important to promote collaborative governance or public-private partnership is because we have we need first of all to face very complex challenge. No, we are in a very complex society where it's not easy to also foresee the problem issue. No, just to see what is happening with the pandemic, with the war, with all the matters about energetic issues. So to face this complex problem, we need to encourage new instrument, a new way to work together. And so to find a solution, instrument, new device in order to create a platform of collaboration and engage the citizens and the non-profit institution, private actors, research centers in order to create the right condition for the new proposal, for new ideas, which has an impact at the local level. And the second point is because also the national legislator, the European, the Constitution asks to encourage the citizens to take an active role in the society and in public life. Just to mention the Article 117 of our Constitution, which asks the cities, the province, and the regions to promote the participation of the citizens. So we have the right legal framework. We have a specific, let me say, mission as cities to work with the citizens and with the non-profit organization. So how can we do that? We have a different instrument. We have a legal instrument, and sometimes we have to use a creative solution. About the legal instrument, as you know, we have the reform of the third sector, which help us to co-design with non-profit organization new ideas and new solutions. That is very, very important. It's quite innovative, and is a way to answer to the rules which are linked to the public procurement. The approach is completely different. In this case, what we try to do is to use a collaborative approach and not a competitive, logical approach. So that is very important. But also, as you know, at the local level, we have set up, we have defined different rules in order to promote the urban commons, And so different cities, example in Italy, now they have a public regulation in order urban commons. And that is very important because when we talk about the urban commons, the key element is not, my personal point of view, is not a matter of just a co-design solution, but the point is the co-production, is the co-management and the co-sharing the risk. That is quite innovative, and that is very important. And also, I think it's a wonderful way to formalize the participation of the citizens, for example, to taking care of square gardens, and it's a wonderful instrument. In other cases, maybe we use, as I said before, the creative solution. Let me remember, for example, the Living Lab. When with the Living Lab, what we try to do is to help innovative, association or enterprises to test a solution with the hope to create an important social impact in our territory. And in other case, with the SID, with the competence center, Italian has chosen to focus the attention of testing a public policy lab. Why? Because we need a space, we need a content, we need a specific platform that help the citizens to talk with the public administration, with the right mediator, with the right broker, with the appropriate instrument, with the right competence. So it's very important to have a relevant toolbox, of instruments to engage and dialogue with the citizens. And sometimes when we need to talk about urban regeneration, what is very important and to go on the ground and to stay in these areas and to talk with the citizens. I know that you have talking about tonight. Tonight, for me, in this sense, is a wonderful example. And just to give some data, we have collected just last week some information about the number of the citizens that have been engaged in this 1 year of tonight, and the number is very impressive. We are talking about 30,000 citizens. 30,000 citizens in 8 months is quite a lot. But why? Because the services that have been launched as the result of co-design is a co-design approach. So we spend a lot of time in order to understand the needs and to create the right condition for the non-profit organization to work, to design a new solution, and then to launch and to try to answer the specific needs in these specific areas. So my hope is that the public authorities and the local administration change their approach to provide the services, moving from a logic of competition to a logic of collaboration. We can do that. Maybe in some cases, it's very important to completely change, but what is very important that, okay, we change the approach, but it's very important that we can continue to maintain the role. The public authority has a specific role, the cities have a specific role, the profit organization, they have a specific role. If this is very clear, I think it's very easy then to create the right condition to collaborate. Thanks.
Thank you, Fabrizio, for this very interesting intervention that brings out not just the variety of approaches that you have been experimenting and are experimenting with in the city of Turin, but also the overall concept of collaboration between public and private, which is made of different things, principles, values, instruments, as you said, but also I would say the will to collaborate in the first place, because if there isn't a will, then there is not a way. And so I personally think that the experience of Turin in this whole concept of public-private cooperation is very important, and also is very important for the SEED project to learn from. Now, I think that because our speakers have been so good in respecting the time that we have allocated to them, we have some time for some questions or feedback from the audience. So I would encourage whoever wants to intervene to raise your hands, and we will leave some space for questions and interventions from the audience. But as you think about it, let me just ask me first a question to our speakers that came to my mind as a result of their intervention. So the question goes to all of you, and the question is the following. So what needs to happen from your point of view to really pass from the stage of experimentation to the phase of implementation or mainstreaming of public-private collaboration? And we can talk about the European level or the local level or the regional level, whatever level of governance you want to take.
Well, I can give a try.
Please,
the question is so complex. So, but having listened to the other speakers with very relevant and insightful interventions, I feel that we should embrace a holistic approach to change. Because it's not just the role of the public administration or of a specific stakeholder group. So we might have a very good public administration or a very good group of investors or private organizations that promote innovation. But if the different stakeholder groups do not relate in a consistent way, the opportunity we have to innovate at scale cannot be tapped enough. So more generally, I see, first of all, a leadership challenge. So, the different stakeholder groups need to embrace leadership and a culture of innovation. And this is a first step to develop competencies and skills that we might not have. But it's I think it's a journey. So we need to start from a certain point of view. Then, of course, rules and laws can help us to have the appropriate framework, but laws themselves cannot, solve such a complex issues. So again, the idea of having a holistic approach. We can see, for example, the experience in the UK. Now they had the Social Value Act for 10 years. There are pros and cons of the Social Value Act that requires the public administration and private organizations to factor not only financial issues, but also environmental and social issues in their decision-making and their commissioning. We see a different experience in Italy with the law 328 that regulates since 2000 the integration of welfare services, where special attention was placed on impact measurement and on the concertation and co-design and co-production of the services. But that law, wasn't enough in order to make a real change and to mainstream innovation at the local level. So again, on the one hand, policies, rules are fundamental, but at the same time, we need to improve the skills, the culture, and again, I stress the leadership, because if we want to make a change, everybody has a role to play.
Thank you, Filippo. You might say that with power comes responsibility. So if you want to take a little bit of power in deciding, we need to take a little responsibility in taking a step at it. Anybody else?
I can contribute again.
Please,
of course, I agree with everything that Filippo said. I would just want to stress even a bit more the fact of I think Fabrizio introduced this topic about promoting collaboration and not competition. So I think from the policies and authorities, it's important that when they define a call for project, for entities, for actors to collaborate, is a call for collaboration and not competition. So the fact that it's stressing the opportunity of collaborate together. So this from top down is important that the request comes as a request of collaboration and not competition. On the other side, I totally agree the fact that it's a change of culture, a change of mind that we have to make, because otherwise, even if we have the possibility, but we don't want to collaborate, it doesn't happen. And also about this, I think it's important that EU funding can create the first opportunity to collaborate, to start doing something in a partnership, but then it's also possible to continue this partnership even after the funding ends. So this is a kind of a choice that public and private can make to collaborate together even after. So it's a lot about a cultural view a culture mindset that we have to change. So of course, collaboration is a possibility, but then it's a choice that we have to make. As you already were saying about the leadership topic, of course, we have to go there.
Thank you very much, Elisa. Nicola, Fabrizio, you want to add?
Yeah. If I can, Fabio, from the impact evaluation perspective, we can see a flow from the European side to the national level. We have seen two regulation and directive, the Sustainability Financial Disclosure Regulation on one side, so the financial market, and on the other side, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive for the private for-profit side that is going to be approved in the month of November. And this movement has given some tools to the private sector to evaluate their impact on the field of the ESG, so environmental, social, and governance aspect. I think that now we need also at the national level to see something from the public, and it is the reason why I speak about the GOAL program, because it is useful to see that also using the Next Gen EU resources, we are trying to put the same regulation, the same instrument that we are going to use in the financial field and in the for-profit field, also in the relation between public and private sector oriented to social innovation to outcome. This is one attempt. Other countries are maybe in a better position than Italy, but I think that we have to stress out that we need skills both on the public sector as well as in the private, in the social private sector, in order to use this assessment instrument as strategic tools. It is not good to make impact evaluation just to do it. We have to understand that it is a strategic instrument that we can use to improve our capacity to change lives of the beneficiaries and persons with the policies.
I couldn't agree more, Nicola. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So I couldn't agree more. Fabrizio.
But just some comments. But for me, the first point is the bureaucracy. And so I think this is a really wall to change something. No, but the point is how to change our system. No, so too much bureaucracy. We are all, and you have to believe me, we are all victims of bureaucracy. And but why there is a bureaucracy? Because there is a lack of trust. That is the point. And so first, if we want to scale up innovation, we need to face seriously this kind of a problem. Otherwise, it's very difficult, because the time innovation is not in line with the time of bureaucracy. And the second point is a matter of culture. No, so I think that we need to give more space to the younger generation, and because the innovation, the creativity, the willing to change the system comes from the younger people. So it's a time to give them more power, more space, more responsibility to the younger generation.
Very brave assertions, Fabrizio. Okay, given that we don't have questions or interventions from the audience, I will be egoistic and take advantage and ask just one very last quick question to our four speakers. I spoke too soon. Madeleine Clark, do you want to make a question, please?
Yes, a comment. First of all, thank you so much for this session, which I unfortunately didn't get the beginning of, so I'm looking forward to looking at the recorded section. But just on that question about how to mainstream innovation within the public sector, and probably relates more to the comments that you're making, Fabrizio, which sound like they're very grounded in experience in Turin. Our experience is that unless there's collaboration between the public and private, by public I mean the citizens or the end beneficiaries, our intended beneficiaries of innovation, that it's really very difficult to mainstream innovation in the public sector, because the public sector represents often the supply side, either directly or by commissioning initiatives to manage challenges. And it is such a major decision for public officials to refocus large budgets towards an innovation, even if it's more effective and more cost effective. The level of displacement of funding to those actors that already are engaging with the public sector to try and manage or meet these challenges can be quite significant. So it's not the most risk-averse thing to do. And the only way, in our experience, to combat that is to give confidence to the public sector that there is sufficient demand on the public side for such a move, which may start incrementally, but may then gather pace. So I think it's very essential, and finding ways to learn from the citizens and to channel the input in a systematic and structured way can be quite a challenge for people. So everybody will say, we want to engage the citizen, we want to put the citizen at the heart of what we do, but they often just need some support and capacity building, and perhaps leadership, which has been mentioned by Alicia and other people here, in order to do that. So I think there is a confidence building and a capacity building challenge for both sides to step forward to really collaborate, because the more effective and the more dazzling an innovation is, often the more resistant those who are maintaining the status quo can be to really mainstreaming. So we constantly find in social innovation these pockets of interesting ideas, solutions to problems that keep growing, but actually scaling them becomes challenging. And our work in identifying innovations that have evidence behind them has taught us that there's some very good evidence behind some, but there is such a gap in resources to gather evidence to prove that a social innovation works, that they often are excluded, unfortunately. So they're just more comments and observations from our experience in Genio than questions, but great session, very stimulating. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine, for your contribution. I guess that probably there is a point about the people that can change the systems from outside and from within, and that actually calls up for the courage and the leadership of a few that try to change the status quo, but then amazingly enough, when they actually succeed to gain some ground, the system reacts to the change they're bringing, and brings to the table all the different obstacles made by rules, procedures, laws, etc., etc. So but the way that I see it is not that it is something static. It's a dynamic equilibrium between these two forces. Sometimes the pioneering side takes more ground. Sometimes the conservative ground, the conservatives take more ground. But from my point of observation, this dynamic equilibrium is actually bringing slowly to a change in a lot of different places in Europe. And so, as I said, it's not just a position that it's static and it's like in a war, you gain some ground, you lose some ground, but actually it's a dynamic equilibrium that slowly but gradually it's bringing some change. At least I want to bring this optimistic view to the table. And thank you also to Alice to share, she's sharing with us a lot of different papers and background papers on the topic. So thank you very much. Are there any other questions or interventions of the audience? I will take one more, and then for those who are in the same time zone as me, I think we deserve to go for lunch. Okay, so if there aren't any, as also Madeleine pointed out, this session has been recorded and will be made available. Thank you very much to our speakers for sharing their views with us. Thank you very much to the audience for joining us, and look up for more seminars coming up from the capacity building series of the SEED project. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.